The wife of a wealthy man, Eleanor Vance, walked into Judge Caprio's courtroom as if she was stepping onto a charity gala stage, not into a courtroom. The expensive dress and diamond earrings she wore were probably worth more than everyone else's net worth in that room combined. You might be wondering, so why is she here? Let me explain. She thinks she's here for a simple parking violation involving her husband's Ferrari. But the case file tells a darker story. She allegedly asked a young police officer, "Do you know who I am?" and threatened to destroy his career. Throughout her privileged life, this arrogant woman had never been deprived of anything money could buy. She assumed things would go as they always had, trusting her old habits to save her again. She probably thought she'd walk into the courtroom, mention her husband's name, maybe write a check to make it all disappear. But this courtroom was different. It belonged to Judge Frank Caprio, a man who had proven time and again that names, wealth, and influence don't matter here. As the hearing went on, shocking details began to surface. Eleanor's mask of civility started to slip, revealing the raw arrogance beneath and the contempt she held for ordinary people. Just as the judgment was about to be announced, the privileged Mrs. Vance made the biggest mistake of her life. She looked Judge Caprio straight in the eyes and asked what the price was for breaking the law. What happened next became one of the most unforgettable moments in Judge Frank Caprio's courtroom. He gave this woman, who had everything money could buy, a lesson that money could never purchase. It was the moment a billionaire's reputation crumbled live on camera. If you've watched this far, don't miss the ending. In our next story, sit back, hit that like button, and enjoy, because what you're about to witness is the fall of privilege before justice itself. Enjoy the story. Wednesday afternoon, 2:30 p.m., Providence, Municipal Court. The bailiff calls out, "The State of Rhode Island versus Eleanor Margaret Vance." She enters the courtroom with the calm confidence of someone who has never believed the rules apply to her. Judge Caprio looks up from the bench with his usual calm dignity. "Good afternoon, Mrs. Vance." Eleanor responds with a practiced smile, the kind she's used at countless charity events. "Good afternoon, Your Honor." Her tone makes it seem like she's at a friendly social event, not a criminal hearing. "Mrs. Vance, you're being charged with threatening a public officer and obstructing justice. According to the complaint, you made career-related threats to Officer Evans during a traffic citation. How do you plead?" Eleanor's smile becomes even more radiant. "Your Honor, I believe this is simply an unfortunate case of miscommunication blown entirely out of proportion. Officer Evans seems to have misinterpreted what was clearly a friendly conversation." "Friendly conversation? Absolutely." Eleanor responds with the confidence of someone who's talked her way out of every uncomfortable situation. "I was merely trying to help the young officer understand the broader context. Sometimes newer employees need guidance about when certain protocols should be applied with discretion." Judge Caprio's expression grows more serious. "Mrs. Vance, according to Officer Evans's report, you threatened to have him transferred to an undesirable assignment if he completed writing your citation. Is that your idea of friendly guidance?" Eleanor's laugh is like crystal chimes, perfectly practiced and completely hollow. "Oh my, Your Honor, I can see how my words might have been misunderstood by someone unfamiliar with how these situations typically resolve themselves. I was simply sharing insight about how the world actually works." Judge Caprio reviews the police report. "Mrs. Vance, the incident report states that you illegally parked your vehicle, a Ferrari, in a fire lane outside an upscale boutique, blocking traffic for 20 minutes. When Officer Evans approached to issue a citation, you allegedly became hostile. Can you explain what happened?" Eleanor adjusts her diamond bracelet casually. "Your Honor, I was making a brief stop to pick up a custom piece for a charity auction benefiting children's hospitals. The valet area was full, and I couldn't leave my husband's car unattended on the street, in a fire lane." For perhaps 3 minutes, Eleanor responds dismissively. There was no fire, no emergency vehicles, no actual problem until Officer Evans decided to make one. "Mrs. Vance, fire lanes exist for emergency access, not convenience parking." "Of course, Your Honor, and under normal circumstances, I would absolutely respect that. But when you're contributing significant funds to local charities, sometimes practical solutions need to take precedence over technicalities. Technicalities? You mean laws? Eleanor's smile falters slightly. I mean rigid interpretations of guidelines that don't account for context or community benefit. Subscribe to Judge Stories if you believe wealth should never exempt anyone from following basic laws. Judge Caprio prepares to review the body camera footage. Mrs. Vance, let's examine Officer Evans's recording so we can understand exactly what was said. Eleanor straightens confidently. Certainly, Your Honor. I think you'll see that Officer Evans greatly exaggerated both my tone and my words. The courtroom monitors display footage that will soon become viral. The video shows Eleanor's gleaming Ferrari abandoned in a fire lane, completely blocking access while other vehicles struggle to navigate around it. Officer Evans approaches professionally. Eleanor emerges from the boutique carrying shopping bags, clearly annoyed at the sight of the officer near her car. Excuse me, officer, is there some kind of problem here? Officer Evans maintains professional courtesy. Ma'am, your vehicle is illegally parked in a fire lane. I'm issuing a citation. Eleanor's voice takes on the tone of someone explaining obvious facts to a slow child. Officer, I think there's been a misunderstanding. This vehicle belongs to my husband, Richard Vance of Vance Capital Management. Perhaps you've heard of him? Ma'am, regardless of ownership, the vehicle is illegally parked. Eleanor's mask of civility begins to slip. Officer, let me help you understand the situation you're creating here. My husband's company manages over $15 billion in assets. We contribute more to this city's tax base than most entire neighborhoods. Ma'am, I still need to complete this citation. What you need to do, Eleanor's voice becomes ice cold, is recognize that you're about to create a very unnecessary problem for yourself. Do you really think it's wise to harass the families of major civic contributors over a parking space? Officer Evans continues writing the ticket. Ma'am, the law applies equally to everyone. At that moment, Eleanor's true character becomes clear. She lowers her voice to a threatening whisper, but the body camera records everything. Officer Evans, isn't it? Explain something very clearly. My husband sits on the police charity board. He personally knows your commissioner, your captain, and probably your sergeant. If you complete that citation, I will make absolutely certain that tomorrow morning you find yourself directing traffic in the worst neighborhood this city has to offer. Do you understand what I'm telling you? Ma'am, are you threatening me? Eleanor's laugh is sharp and cruel. I'm educating you about consequences. Smart officers understand when to show appropriate discretion. I offered to resolve this matter through appropriate financial consideration that reflects the seriousness of the charges. I said to name my price for making justice disappear. Judge Caprio stands slowly, and the entire courtroom falls silent. Mrs. Vance, in 40 years on this bench, I have rarely encountered such blatant contempt for the judicial process, such arrogant disregard for the rule of law, or such obvious corruption from someone who should understand the importance of ethical behavior. Eleanor attempts to backtrack. Your Honor, I apologize if my words were misunderstood. Your words were clear, Mrs. Vance. You believe your wealth entitles you to purchase immunity from criminal consequences. Judge Caprio's voice becomes deadly serious. For threatening a law enforcement officer in the performance of his duties, I'm imposing the maximum fine of $15,000. Eleanor barely reacts, as if the money means nothing to her. For obstruction of justice and attempted intimidation of a public official, an additional $20,000 fine. She still shows no concern, knowing her husband can pay the fine without a second thought. And for attempted bribery of a sitting judge, an additional $50,000. Eleanor looks annoyed, but still seems confident. But Judge Caprio isn't finished. Mrs. Vance, you came into this courtroom believing your wealth made you untouchable. You threatened a dedicated officer, showed no remorse, and then attempted to corrupt these proceedings. Your consequences will be designed to strip away every protection your money has provided. Eleanor's arrogant facade begins to crack. What do you mean? First, I'm ordering complete video recordings of these proceedings, including your threats against Officer Evans and your attempted bribery, to be forwarded to every charitable organization and foundation where you and your husband serve on boards of directors. Eleanor's face goes white. You can't involve our charitable work in a legal matter. I can and I am. Donors deserve to know whether their contributions are managed by someone who threatens public servants and attempts to corrupt judicial proceedings. This is outrageous. Our philanthropic work has nothing to do with a parking violation. Judge Caprio's response is ice cold. Your character has everything to do with your fitness to manage charitable funds. But Judge Caprio delivers his most devastating blow yet. Second, you're sentenced to 250 hours of community service to be performed specifically at the Central Police Dispatch Center, answering emergency calls and assisting the same officers you've shown such contempt for. Eleanor's mouth drops open in horror. Working at a police station with common officers, I can't possibly. You'll report every Monday, Wednesday and Friday for 8 hours wearing a volunteer identification badge that clearly identifies you as performing court-ordered community service. This is humiliating. I won't be treated like a common criminal. Judge Caprio's final punishment is delivered with perfect judicial calm. And most importantly, as part of your service requirement, you will personally deliver coffee and coordinate meal orders for Officer Evans and his colleagues every morning before their shifts begin. Eleanor stares in absolute shock. You want me to serve coffee to the police officer? To Officer Evans? Every morning for the duration of your service, you'll demonstrate the respect and courtesy that every public servant deserves. I won't do it. I refuse. My husband will appeal this ridiculous sentence. Judge Caprio's response destroys her final hope. Your husband's wealth couldn't prevent you from threatening an officer, couldn't stop you from attempting to bribe a judge, and won't save you from these consequences. Appeal all you want, Mrs. Vance. Every word of today's proceedings is recorded. As bailiffs prepare to escort Eleanor from the courtroom, Judge Caprio delivers his final words. Mrs. Vance, you entered this courtroom believing money could purchase immunity from consequences. Anita, you threatened a dedicated officer, showed contempt for this court, and attempted to corrupt the judicial process. You're leaving here stripped of every protection wealth provided, facing public exposure of your true character, and sentenced to serve the very people you tried to intimidate. Eleanor Vance, who thought her husband's wealth made her untouchable, now faces months of serving coffee to police officers while wearing a badge marking her as a convicted criminal doing court-ordered service. Within hours, video of her attempted bribery goes viral, and Eleanor becomes the symbol of everything wrong with wealth and privilege. Her husband's investment firm faces massive client withdrawals, and every charity board requests her resignation. Sometimes the most costly lessons are those that take away what money can't buy: dignity, respect, and character. If you enjoyed this story, you can support me by liking it, and, if you haven't already, subscribing to my channel, my loyal viewers. If you enjoy stories like this, you can check out the other videos on my channel. See you in the next video. Stay healthy.